Hello everyone. So today I am going to be talking a lot about pastels. So you can see with all these things in front of me that this is my partial collection of pastels that I have. I have another bigger box of soft pastels. There are like 90 colors that I don't have in here because the whole box is going to fill up the whole screen, and I'm not going to use that set in this series of videos. That's why I'm not showing you. So if those of you who have been following me on my videos would have probably have seen me use like these and this and this before, and also this in especially my feng shui videos where I do mandalas for each direction of the feng shui direction. So pastels are probably my favorite art medium to use because they are really vibrant, really light fast, really easy to work with, relatively cleaner than watercolor or gouache or poster colors, and yet in some cases they are water soluble. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Okay, so and pastels comes in a few different forms. So there is the soft pastels. Okay, these are the, I would say, budget artist grade soft pastels that you're seeing here, the gallery artist soft pastels. Okay, and then these are like the, I would say, budget artist hard pastels. Okay, the Lyra poly crayons, I got this like quite a few years ago when I first got back into pastels, because when I first got into pastels was when I was like 15 years old. This was like donkey years ago probably. So pastel pencils never existed then. Okay, this brand wasn't in existence then either. So my first set of pastel was the Fable Castle pastels at that time, and they were hard pastels similar to these, but in 36 colors. I remember fondly. Sadly, I don't have that set anymore. I've only used it like quite a few times actually when I was in school, and I used it for in place of painting, brush and watercolor paints. Okay, so I use them instead of paint. Everybody else was using watercolor and poster colors back then, and I'm the only one that used pastel in the entire class. So, and I found that these were really easy to work with. They don't wear off my fingers back then because I used my fingers to blend. And with oil pastels, I had to push really hard to get the colors to blend at that time because I was only 15 years old. Okay, so back then I didn't have that kind of budget to buy more expensive type, so I went with like the pure student grade stuff like the Sakura Crepa. If you know what they are. Okay, they are oil pastels, and I didn't really like them. And when I found these chalk pastels, I was like, these are so easy to blend with. The only downside with pastels is you need to use fixative or hairspray to fix it. Okay, so depending on what you want to do, fixatives are generally more archival than hairspray. If you're using hairspray to fix pastel, buy the cheapest hairspray you can find because they will tend to have less additives to it. So the hairsprays with the least additives is the best for fixing pastels on the paper. Alright, this is from experience. And the good thing with hairspray is that you can just take it into the bathroom or your bathtub and just spray it. Just spray your art, your pastel painting with it without any protection for overspray or whatever. Just spray it in the place where everyone would take their showers in, you know. And then take it out. And then the next time somebody goes in and take a shower, they'll just clean the area, because hairsprays are meant to be clean off your hair, so they're not water resistant or waterproof. Okay, whereas some fixatives are water resistant or waterproof. So if you are using fixatives, then you will need some overspray protection. Okay, so with hairspray, the good thing is you don't intend to keep your art around for a long time. I mean, if it's just for you to look at and you're not selling your art and all that, use hairspray. Okay, it's really cheap, significantly cheaper than fixatives. Although fixatives nowadays aren't really that expensive, but still, compared to a can of fixative, a hairspray is like a tiny fraction of the cost of a bottle of fixative. Okay, I'm not kidding. Okay, a bottle of fixative can cost anywhere from $15 Singapore dollars, anywhere $15 to about $30 depending on the brand and make, and they are not very healthy for anyone using it either. I mean, long-term use is not a very highly recommended thing to do because they do stink when you use fixatives. With the hairspray, they stink as well for some of them, but they do have some perfume to it. Like I said, the only downside with hairspray is they're not archival. So the danger or the risk there is your painting may shift colors over time after a few years, like maybe 2 or 3 years. With fixative, no. And they're both very fast drying. Now, having said that, there's only one brand of fixative on the market at the moment that is quote-unquote kind of safe to use because it doesn't stink like the rest of it. Okay, and that's Spectrafix. Spectrafix doesn't use any propellant or any kind of solvent, like stinky solvent like turpentine or something, for the fixative. Okay, go look it up. Spectrafix. They are not very expensive. The price is comparable to the standard fixative that's made by Taylor and Mooney or Newton, Winsor and Newton, etc., etc. Okay, find one that you like. They dry pretty fast, within 15 minutes or less, depending on where you live. So do the hairspray, but Spectrafix do take generally quite a bit longer to dry, so you have to wait longer, and your paper would tend to warp and curl. So after it's dry, you might want to find a way to straighten it out. That's the only downside about it. But otherwise, it fixes as well as any other fixative you can find on the market. Alright, so having said that, I am going to dive in now to the different kinds of tools that I will be using for this short series of art to showcase what you can do with pastels. They not only can do this kind of painting that you see on this picture here, or this picture here, not very visible because of the reflection, but here it is. okay, so it is possible for you to make paintings like these. All right, and then there is this is a soft pastel. Okay, they are softer than this hard pastel. Okay, and this is also a hard pastel here. This two box here. The reason is in two boxes because there are each box is a different set of colors, and both of them makes one full set of colors, so it's 48 colors. They're pretty cheap. They're not very expensive. The difference between this one and this one is these are supposed to be water soluble, so you can actually blend them or use them like watercolor if you want to. Tempera watercolor, I guess, if you want to use it. I've never used it that way before because this set was a more recently acquired, and I've had these for quite a few years, so this set was more recent. And I've tried using water with this set and it doesn't really work well. Okay, so, and I know these are not water soluble, these two sets, and this is not water soluble. Okay, so the difference between these three sets and this is pastel pencils, and this is how it looks like colored pencils. Only thing is they blend like pastels and not like colored pencils. Okay, and you've seen me use these in some series of my videos before. Okay, before I had this one, I was using this because I couldn't find something like that until I saw this at the store. So this was a more recent thing that I bought, and this was what I've been using all this time. Okay, and then I have this little yogurt cups here that I will be showing you what I do with them. All right, so it's easy to get these or little containers, and you will see what I use them for. I used to use these for acrylic pouring before I decided to stop doing it. That I still do that occasionally, but not as much anymore because I want to focus on using pastels, and I'm in the process of exploring more different kinds of art materials, which I will be sharing on video. All right, so those are future video releases. So in any case, now that I've talked about all these pastels, okay, I am going to show you some simple techniques today for making backgrounds for art, which you could use, or even for card making, okay, with pastels. And then in future videos, I will show you how to make scenes with these, all without drawing and painting, just using pastels, and not even coloring pastels the old traditional way like you think would be happening, right? So I will see you in a bit. Okay, so one of the biggest reason why I wanted to do something with soft pastel is because soft pastels works through tactile feeling, and in psychology we call that like priming. Okay, priming, and also a metaphor. So how this works is, in a sense, because In my previous video for Neuroart color theory, I mentioned something about metaphor, about how colors work with metaphor. Okay, so in art, materials also work like metaphor. So in that video, I mentioned how, actually not I mentioned, I had a little clip in there that showed how restaurants use the feel of utensils to charge people more money or to make food taste better. Okay, so what happens is that if restaurants use heavier utensils, people would tend to think that their food is more worthy of the high prices that they would charge. And there are research that implies that, and the one research paper that I've read said something similar to that extent. Okay, but only in this case they were using surveys and the weight of the clipboard. So they gave a bunch of people different weights of clipboard. One is lightweight and one that's really heavy. Okay, so their final research result was that those people who used the heavy clipboards to answer the survey felt like they were doing something important by answering the survey. Okay, and the results were significant. So that was the conclusion for that research. I can't remember exactly the research paper's name, and I can't quote the authors of the research either. Yeah, the final conclusion for the research was that people who used heavier clipboards felt like they were doing something important as opposed to those people who were using lighter clipboards. Along the same lines, I forget if it's in the same research or in a different research paper. So there was a similar conclusion where they were testing the likelihood of how people would react to the comfort of the seat during negotiations on the price of a used car. And the test conditions were the kind of seat that people were sitting on. So soft, plush, comfortable seat versus hard, uncomfortable seat. So what they found out was that those people who sat on the plush, cushy, comfortable seat were more likely to cave in the negotiation, as in they were more flexible, as opposed to those people who were sitting on the hard, uncomfortable seat. So you can think of hard, uncomfortable seat as maybe a normal, regular wooden or plastic chair with no cushions, and a plush, comfortable seat as maybe some seat with cushions. Okay, that affects. Alright, so, and it affects because we tend to associate softness with comfort. Okay, and why that happens, I don't think I need to explain. Just look at the bed that you sleep at night. Would you prefer to sleep on a softer bed or a harder bed? Okay, enough said. So in any case, pastels work via tactile feelings. So if you're one of those people who have this sensory disorder where powdery stuff makes you feel uncomfortable, then this method may not be for you. Okay, so pastel works with this powdery things. It's a little bit like, I want to say sand therapy, but sand therapy works in a different way. But sand therapy, as we all know, the feeling of sand, of moving your hand through sand. And I don't know enough about sand therapy to say much, except that I know that sand therapy uses toys and sand for clients to play in it, like in a sandbox. Alright? And part of it is for clients to tell their story by playing in a sandbox. And the other part of it is the feeling of sand on your hands when you're actually in the sandbox. Okay? So pastels work that same way in that powdery feeling. Because the powdery feel is very soothing, it's kind of like if you run your hands through a smooth piece of paper. Okay, it's very soothing. So when you use pastel in a way, when your fingers are in contact with the pastels, it's a very soothing feel. For those of us who do not have that sensory disorder thing, which makes powdery things make you feel uncomfortable. Okay, if you're one of those exceptional individuals, then this method is not for you. You may want to look elsewhere. Alright, and I'm not teaching any form of therapy here either. I'm just teaching you methods. I'm just showing you a way that you can self-soothe yourself by making art. I mean, art making in it by itself is already a very soothing, therapeutic activity on its own with any art materials. Doesn't have to be soft pastels or hard pastels. Okay, so using soft pastel and hard pastel is just the added advantage of having that tactile feeling. Okay, so without further ado, I am going to show you how you can do pastel art for backgrounds. So in this session, I am going to show you how you use pastel to make a background for your art, any kind of art. But before doing so, I want to show you the different techniques of it. Okay, so one of the first thing you want to do is you want to keep a piece of wet towel or some paper towels near you, because when you're working with pastels on your fingers, it's always nice to have something to wipe it off, so you have a clean finger to work with, and you're going to be working a lot with fingers today. So the other thing is, if you have OCD, this might be difficult for you too. So you might want to consider looking away or moving away from this video. Okay? So yes, one of the things with pastels is you are going to have messy fingers. That's a given. In fact, working with any serious art materials, you're going to have messy hands and messy fingers. So in any case, here we go. So first thing is, this is ordinary paper, cartridge paper, printer paper actually, and I'm going to show you the properties of pastels first. So the biggest property with pastels that I love most is its blendability. Okay, I'm going to put two colors on, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to blend two colors together. I'm going to make it bigger a little bit. Okay, with soft pastels, you're going to get a lot of dust. Not mostly, but if you're using good paper, which this is not, this is just ordinary printer paper, you get a lot of dust. So I have 5 fingers, so I'm going to kind of just rub the dust into the paper. Now if I'm working on better quality paper, I don't get this much dust. So you blend like this. see how well they blend? Okay, that's one of the properties, and then I just wipe it off with a wet rag. And it's ready for the next one. See? Alright? So the next thing I want to show you is how you use this seed or this. Okay? They're the same. I use them the same way, except for when I put it in this container here. I'm trying to get the powder out. Okay, you will see. So a couple of things that happen is you can put some pastel powder on the paper like so. Okay, now if you look closely, you can see bits of pastel powder on here. Okay, so how this can be used to cover your entire paper depends on how you're going to put your fingers onto the powder itself. Okay, because once you press your fingers into the powder, or rather the pigment powder, it's going to get stuck inside the grains of the paper and you can't get it out. Alright, not very easily in any ways, but with pastel on normal paper, not just normal paper, any art paper, you can still erase it, not completely, just enough. Okay, I will show you in a minute. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my fingers, 3 fingers, 4 fingers, up to you, or even 2 finger or 1 finger. So I'm going to use maybe 3 fingers, and then I'm going to just gently press onto the paper where all the powder is to create a different effect. Okay, so you see how this effect is with just one color. You see that it's kind of blotchy. Okay, using 2 fingers is probably easier, like these 2 fingers. Alright, so I will show you this same technique later on when I'm doing it on a full sheet of, or rather half sheet paper, to show you how it looks like. Okay, now I'm going to put another color on so you can see the effect. So I'm going to do it a little lightly. Okay, you can see the difference. Okay, this is a little too light. Okay, so you kind of get the idea. I'm going to use a darker color and do it very lightly. So you start to see a little more three-dimensional effect come out. In fact, if I did this with, like, say, different grades of gray, which I can do to show you. Okay, I just need to clean my fingers off. So I'm going to use some grays to show you what I mean. Okay, I'm going to go with a pretty light gray. Do a pretty small patch here, okay? I'll go in with another different, slightly darker gray. Then something slightly darker, just a little bit here and there. I'm doing it with one finger now. So you should start to see like a more three-dimensional effect showing up. Okay, what I'm doing now is I'm more blending out the edges. So you see there's a little bit more cloudy three-dimensional effect going on there. Okay, and this is just only with gray. Three gray tones. Okay, so this is to get that puffy cloud effect. So now I'm going to go back to red again. So if I do this red, putting some powder down, okay, now with this you get this puffy effect. Alright, now instead of doing that, you can also do this. And you get a different effect. So you can blend it out a little bit more, or you can leave it like that. Okay, and then we'll go with blue again, like I did before, just in some areas. And I'm going to do one. So you get this kind of effect, and they'll blend and will become purple in some areas. And then I'm going to use another darker blue to show you. Not dark enough, not enough pigment actually. There we go. Okay, so two very different effects you can achieve with just the pigment powder and with no drawing at all. Okay, this one I had to lay it down with the stick, coloring it a little bit, and then I blend it with this. Now, and this is done on printer paper. Okay, because I have a whole bunch of printer paper that I have not used. So now, the other thing with this is you can also create say, okay, this is scratch paper. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tear a bit out. Okay, weird shape, no particular thing in mind. So this is the shape. Okay, I'll put it down here so you can see clearer. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use this. I have two of this here, so you can see different ways. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some pigment. Why I'm using this is because it's more convenient this way. Okay, it just goes right in the cup. If not, I could have used this and just did this. Actually, I'm going to do this. So you can see the pigment coming off. Now, these are the soft pastels. You can also do this with a hard pastel. Okay, and in fact, if you do this and you have the water-soluble pastels like this, they are selling quite a few water-soluble types now. Not only this, Conte de Paris has a set that's water-soluble. So you can see the pigment coming off. Alright? So how is that relevant to what I'm about to show you? You will see in a minute. Let me get a couple of different colors in. So let me get a little bit of the blue. Okay, so now I have these two little bits. Now I just tore a bit of paper off and I did this. Okay, so I'm going to dip my finger into the pastel powder. or the pigment powder, and then I'm just gonna run it through this little shape I created. Okay. Can you see? And then I can make more by just joining up the shape again. I can overlap it as well. I can flip it around if I want to. And let's say I'm going to use now if I put the blue on here, it's going to make it purple. I'll show you. Might come out purple. In this case it did. Okay, so you can do this. You see the effect it creates? I can even flip it. Now there's still enough pastel on the paper that I could just do this. Okay, now because this piece of paper has some sharp corners too, I can do this as well. Okay, and then you get the idea? Okay, so these are just the techniques, okay? Now, you can also use stencils. I don't have stencils on me at the moment. I'll go get some in a minute, but let me just do what I can with whatever paper I have at the moment. Alright, so just cut some random shape just to show you. What's possible is just some random shape. See this? Now, if you want to go by lighting, let's say the light's coming in this way, you just do it like that and make it a little darker here. And we can okay, this is a little too dark. But just to give you an idea of how it should look, something like that, so you look a bit more 3D. Let me do another one. I need to wipe my fingers off. Even if you don't care about the lighting, it will still look kind of 3D. Okay. Okay. So these are some of the things you can do without putting your pastel chalks onto the paper directly, just by using the powder. Okay, so in saying that, if you like to put the pastel on the paper itself, which in this case, let's say on this piece of paper, okay, let me do something. I'm gonna do a bit more shades here. Okay, so I am going to use another color, say this magenta here. So I'm going to color very lightly the outskirts off. Just the edges of where I tore the paper. Alright. Then I'm just going to rub my finger out from where I colored it. And you will see this. Okay, this is a little bit more subtle than this one. Yeah, and you can also do multiple. Okay, I think if I put another color on, it's going to change the color. But never mind, we will experiment. If it doesn't, then it's good. If it does, then... And I'm not like coloring it very heavily either, because I don't want a heavy coating of it. And I'm actually using another piece of paper to do it here as a liner, so I don't get it on something else like other that I want. I'm gonna offset this, something like that. And do this. So you see, I mean, just by this alone, it looks really pretty already. So if you have this on the background, it's gonna look really nice. Okay. Alright, so having said that, I am going to show you how you can potentially create some background with these techniques that I've shown you. Okay, so these are the stenciling techniques that you can use, and this is actually my favorite technique. You will see it in a little bit. Even if you don't do this, don't do the tearing, it will still work. I will show you. So I'm gonna have, this is a sheet of drawing paper. Okay, and I am going to use these as my paper backing. Right. So let me think about the colors I want. I'm going to wipe these off and get a different color in there, probably. Oh yes, I was gonna show you the stencil, right? Okay. I'll show you together with what I'm going to do. Okay, so I'll just show you a very simple stencil. Nothing complicated. This is how the stencil works. Alright. So I am going to put a few, say 3 different colors here. Okay, I'm going to be using these same colors later on. No, I don't need this. I guess it has these 3 colors. So what I do is I would dip fingers in here and rub it just to get any excess off. You might want to tape your stencil onto paper if you want to, but now I'm not going to. And then I'm just gonna do multiple colors, this, just to show you what I mean. Forgot to wipe my fingers. So I'm using 3 different colors. On the same stencil to show you what I mean when you're using stencil. Okay, you can do this. Okay, so when I lift off, you should see the effect. Okay. Then I just wipe my stencil off, or I can wash it under the tap later on. Okay, so this is what you can do with a stencil. Of course, you need to fix this, okay, with either a spray fixative or hairspray. Alright? So this is that. So now I'm going to show you how you can do a background on this piece of this thick paper, drawing paper, with just the edges of a sheet of paper. Okay, so I'm gonna use this as backing. Oh, I don't need to because I have so many colors. Okay. I'm going to do on a different side because I don't want the color to carry over. So you can do it this way, or the other way you can do it is to get this thing and then just directly put the pigment on here, but you can't really control it as well. Okay. Use another sheet of paper, the ones that I've used. Maybe I'll use 3 different fingers instead so I don't keep wiping off. Okay, so I'm feeling like I need some more stuff here. So just give me a minute while I clean off my fingers. Now remember this background, so you don't want to overpower stuff. So I might so I'm going to do a bit more of this yellow. Then I'm going to put a little bit of darker yellow here. Just sprinkles. Now I'm gonna put a bit red just to balance things off. It's a little bit. Okay, so I think this is a background that I'm happy with. Once I can do some Neurolines and some Neuroart here that would take the attention away from this red cross, because right now that's the one that's standing up. So once black goes down, it's gonna go away. But before I can do that, I will need to spray fix this whole thing. So I'll do it off camera. So later on. So now I'm going to show you the other way of making this background, okay? This is a fresh piece of paper, and this other way requires a lot of paper tearing. So just like what I've shown you earlier. So I'm gonna tear. Okay. You can use scissors to cut too, but I don't want to make it look so how do you say, perfect. So I'm doing this tearing instead. So 3 different ones now. I'll do one more at this end. Okay, so I need some scrap paper here. Let's start with this one, and I am going to try to make like using the sunset colors a little bit. Alright, so I'm gonna do this color here. yellow. Then do this one. Darker orange. And then this next one probably be red. And I'm gonna make the back side this. And then I'm gonna make this side purple. Maybe I shouldn't do it yet because it's purple. Well, we'll see what happens. Now you can do this with either hard pastels or soft pastels. It would give the same effect. Okay. So, okay, now I'm ready. So the first color that's going to come on is yellow. Okay, and then do this orange. I can overlap it if I want to, but I'm not going to. You can do this with thick paper too, it's a lot easier. Okay, so you don't get this kind of problem here. Okay, so then you can smooth it out if you want to. So what I'm doing now is I'm just blending the bottom part out. Just a tad. Okay, so done this. Now you notice that I'm not wiping my fingers off because yellow is lighter than this color and this one is lighter than orange, so there's no need to wipe off my fingers because the darker color is going to override. Or you can just use different finger if you didn't like that. Okay? Choice is up to you. Now I'm gonna blend this out just a tad. So you can make mountains with this effect as well. which I'm not at this point. Okay. So it's going to be red first. Now this is going to be the first one, which I will overlap a little bit. Not a whole lot. Okay, I need my hand to stabilize this so it will be blocked. Okay, now you see the effect if you overlap it. Okay, now I have this part. Okay, this is the magenta color. Okay, and finally the purple. So now, if I want to continue on all the way up here, I can either choose to reuse some of these or not. In this case, I'm not going to. So I'm gonna have another sheet of paper and I'm going to do some darker colors, right? So I'm going to start with this one. So I'm going to stop here. Let's see, maybe about 3 or 4 should be enough. So I'm going to go with a whole series of blue this time. Okay, so we're gonna continue with blue now. I did a little oopsie here. Let's see it. There are some blue fingerprints here. Show you that you can erase that. Well, some of it anyways, not all of it. So for the top, I'm going to do this. All right, so we are done here. This can be a painting on its own, even if it's not going to be a background. Okay, so I was going to show you how you can erase this with an eraser. Okay, it's just a normal eraser like this. See, it's gone, but it also leaves like white marks here. So if you want like a really nice white line, suppose you can do this. If you want some really sharp, you can do that. Just as an example. And then if you think that it's too much, just rub your fingers in. It will all blend out. Okay? So this is what's possible without putting the pastel directly to paper. Okay, so what's left to be done now is I'm going to spray fixative on this, and then I'm going to come back and do something with this. I think I'm going to leave this as it is because it looks really pretty the way it is. Alright, and then I'm going to probably draw something on this. Okay, so now we're back with the dried background piece that I mentioned earlier. So I sprayed this with fixative and I let it dry. And no, I did wait overnight because last night when I completed the rest, it was quite late. So today what I'm going to do is I am going to use this to draw 2 circles, different colors, and then I'm going to put in the final art piece. Okay, show you how it looks like. First, all right, so pen's working, hope it keeps working. Here we go. If you want to use your free hand to draw the line, that's fine too, but I'm not gonna do it today. And if you did mistake like me, that's fine, because after I put in all the neural lines, you probably won't see it again. Alright, so first I'm gonna add some neural lines. Right? Don't bother rounding for now, because I'm going to put in a lot of neural lines. By the time I'm done with it, you probably won't be able to tell which ones I rounded and which ones I have not. That is one of the secrets of doing neural art, alright? So I'm gonna make sure this layer is dry first. Okay, I'm gonna do a little bit of rounding. So we're not doing the catharsis here, so don't have to be 100% rounding. So now I'm gonna do this end, and I'm gonna use a black marker this time. Okay, so here you go, 2 different drawings using pastels. One using a pen to draw, the other just plain pastel powder. Okay, so I hope that you have taken away with you how to use pastel simply without even using it like a crayon for coloring. Okay, I hope you enjoy this. I will talk to you again later.